Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome into the 143. This is Under Review coming at you live with episode 217. Nick, how are we doing tonight?
Doing good. We like to do, I say, probably one of these episodes every year.
Yep.
Just covering NIL, what's going on, what's changing,
Talking
what
about
the
college.
outlook is going to be. So that's what we've got for you today.
I got a couple college episodes back to back. We'll be focusing on football this week with the NIL and the transfer portal. Next week, we will have the March Madness episode like we normally do every year. So changing it up, going from professional sports to college sports. Stat of the week brought to you by our sponsor, Andrews Logistics, is there were more than 10,000 players enter the transfer portal this past season. That's across all divisions. From the first week, there were about 5,000 in the first week that entered the transfer portal. So big change in college football as you can transfer and play immediately, and there is money available now. We'll get into all that here in a second.
Player of the week, flipping it back to a professional just for a second, just because I feel like this was a somewhat of a blockbuster trade, and then it's kind of been in the works. I want to say kind of since the middle of last season, just because there was a lot of talk of Max Crosby leaving the Raiders. There was a little bit of buzz kind of at the trade deadline, I feel like last year around his name, but he moves on to the AFC North, gets traded to the Baltimore Ravens, and he's been a threat, just a powerhouse ever since he stepped foot into the league. Last year, 10 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, but just overall one of the best edge players the game has right now. Now he's actually going to be able to play on a team that's going to compete for something, because before it was just a situation where he was a really, really good player in a horrible situation, but now he's moving on to a team that he can actually have true impact on, because there are, playoff implications involved.
He didn't really want to leave. I mean, he hasn't really wanted to leave at all. He's involved in trade rumors every year just because of how good he is and how bad the Raiders are. And he came out and said he wanted to retire a Raider. I think he just finally realized that it probably wasn't going to happen in Vegas. But I know the Cowboys offered a first and a second, and I think Tyler Guyton maybe for him. But in the end, the Raiders wanted the 2 first-round picks that Baltimore offered, and I'm totally fine with that because, I would not be happy if we gave up 2 first-round picks for one guy. Although Max Crosby is very talented, but smart move by Jerry for not giving him that. Just wanted to give some credit to him. We've had, like we said last week, an interestingly smart offseason so far. So
maybe we're seeing Jerry take a step back, and that's what's changing. He's ready to release the reins. But, for Max Crosby, it was time to get out of Las Vegas. I mean, he put in substantial time and like 6 or 7 years, something like that.
Yeah.
And,
nothing was happening.
It's cool to be a homer, but at some point you gotta, I think you just gotta move on.
Yep.
Go where you can get money, and then also, go to a team where you're gonna compete and actually play for something. Whereas, you're playing to win 4 or 5 games a year if you're lucky,
maybe,
as a Raider. So I think it was long overdue for him to actually go somewhere and be an impact player.
Yeah, I think he'll have an immediate impact in Baltimore. I would assume they win the division next year, barring any craziness in the AFC North. But kicking it back to college, the college football has changed a lot over the last couple of years, and we've definitely talked about it every offseason, how the fact that the players can now benefit from their name, image, and likeness. They can make money from boosters and whatever around the organization. Well, at this point, I think the colleges can also pay the players. That's a newer thing. And so, we sit here and we talk about how essentially what needs to happen is college football needs to become its own entity. Right now, it's still part of the NCAA. And the NCAA, they're just very old-fashioned. They have not been able to catch up to the changes to the times that are happening right now. And college football needs rules because right now, all of it's gray area. Players are just not happy and they're leaving. There's no allegiance. There's no the biggest thing they need, I think, in our opinion, is contracts. They're not having to sign a contract essentially, so they can take the money and still do whatever they want to the school.
Yeah, it turns into a frenzy every season, and it's somewhat becoming similar to professional sports where, or actually I say it's becoming similar just because of how many moves you're seeing, but it's honestly getting a little bit worse. I feel
Absolutely.
like the last 2 years,
Yeah.
just because you've got people jumping from team to team to team, and so you don't have any of those homegrown players anymore. There's no loyalty, which, I mean, you can't really fault the players for doing, because these are 18, 19, 20-year-old kids who are
millions of dollars just right
millions
in
of
their face.
dollars on the table that is, possible for you to go and get. So, I mean,
When you say your
it's
family,
hard to say no to
yeah,
that.
a lot of these kids are coming from not having any money to having money just be flashed in front of their eyes. I mean, you can't fault them for going after the money, especially if they haven't had that and they want to help their family out. Just situations like those. Another reason that college football has to figure out their schedule, because the recruiting period is in early January. So coaches, if they're going to change their job, have to do it early January. Well, we saw a situation where Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss were on their way to a college football playoff run, and Lane Kiffin got hired at LSU. So he had to leave the team effective immediately. And so he left, but the team still had to make the college football playoff run. It was messy, and it was partly Lane Kiffin's fault, but a big part of it, the fault of it, would be the calendar of the college football year. So what they need to do is kind of what the NFL does, where, you have a month after the last game, the championship, where you can make all these moves, and then free agency transfer portal starts a month after that, kind of like the NFL does.
Yeah, obviously they needed to change that as soon as they implemented the 12-team college football playoff, because obviously that extends the college football season by almost a month.
Yeah,
almost a month. So obviously that,
so you got players that aren't even
very, very messy. Yeah,
they're transferring. They're not playing in these games in the playoffs because they're going somewhere else. Kind of what Lane Kiffin did.
Which, I mean, that was something that I think you should have / could have seen coming.
Yeah,
that they could have
all of this
should have prepared for,
Yeah.
but I mean, it had to happen once, I guess, for them to understand how important it is that you get that right.
There's just no clear-cut set of rules right now, and so you're seeing just this frenzy happen in January, where players are leaving, coaches are leaving, teams are still playing in the college football playoff. There's money involved, obviously. I mean, just all this stuff, and there's nobody in charge of it, essentially. And so what needs to happen is there needs to be contracts for the players that they sign to the school, because the school is paying them. And then the calendar needs to be changed. And then just some interesting kind of developments that happened this offseason. 2 big-time quarterbacks transferred to different schools. And Darian Mensah, he transferred from Duke to Miami. And also Sorsby transferred from Cincinnati to Texas Tech, both of them obviously receiving a lot more money than the school they were playing at. But both of those former schools are now suing these players' contracts, saying they're in breach of contract. Well, nobody knows, because they didn't really have like a clear-cut contract, because there is no clear-cut contracts right now. That's a problem that's going to present, because now when you leave the school, obviously, they want their money back at that point because you didn't stay for very long. So I think the solution here overall is just to make the college football its own entity, and then you basically mirror it and essentially to the NFL, and it becomes almost like an NFL like minor league system, but it's got to have a similar schedule to the NFL.
Yeah, because there does need to be some level of commitment, because you're paying these players loads and loads of money, and then they have a good season and they go transfer to a richer school that offers better pay, more benefits, whatever the case may be. But then also going along with the schedule, I mean, since we're talking about it, I think you also got to change when the national championship is.
Absolutely. Can't be on a Monday night.
On a Monday night, that's probably the worst thing in the world. I mean, Monday is the worst day of the week. Everyone knows that.
Yep.
College football is a Sunday affair, and you're having the biggest game Saturday affair.
Saturday
Sorry,
affair.
not Sunday. It's
Sundays are reserved for the NFL. Thank you very much.
It's a Saturday affair.
Yep.
And you're having the biggest game of the season on a Monday. That just seems stupid because it should go. If it's a Saturday sport, then why
Have
would
it
the
on the
championship not be on a Saturday?
It doesn't make any sense. And also, you cut out the month in between the end of the season and the playoffs starting.
Yeah.
Right now, you have this upcoming college football season, the championships on January 25th, 2027.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy when the season ends at the beginning of December or the end of November. And these players have got to wait weeks. You don't even have to change the schedule if you just move the playoffs to the following week. Like, you can have the bowl games going on.
Maybe give them a week off.
Yeah, you can give them a week off, but you're giving them like 3 weeks off, and then it changes the complexion of the playoff too. And so, I mean, the calendar is a big thing that has to be changed one way or the other. But I mean, the NFL, they don't even get a week.
And I know there's complaints. There's been some complaints too about teams getting the first round bye. I guess your top 4 teams
get a first round bye.
So
they're even more rusty.
What's been happening is not all, but I would say most of those teams end up losing the
only
first
one
game
team.
that
Only
they
one
play.
team has won the first game. That was Indiana.
And
this
obviously
year.
they went on to go win the national championship. But I guess 2 years ago when they first did it, all 4 teams lost the first game they played, and then last year,
and
3 of the 4 lost.
You got to make those 4 games like the top 4 teams should not be punished with a neutral site game
when the other team's got a home game.
Yeah, teams 5 through 8 get a home game. You've got to make to where 1 through 4 also get a home game. And move the bowl. Like, you can just move the bowl game. You can be the same title, but it's at their stadium. I understand there's a lot of money involved in this, and I don't know how all of that works. But a lot of these, like, college football people have been saying it for a while. Like, why do 5 through 8 get a home game and 1 through 4 get a neutral site game? That's just ridiculous. College football just implementing all these changes with no legislature whatsoever, and it's created this just absolute madness that happens to where coaches leaving, players leaving, playoffs are going on, and nobody kind of knows what's going on outside of the actual games in the playoffs.
I know the Rose Bowl is a big one. That's one that we talked about, I feel like, in the offseason. I don't really remember what your thoughts are on it, but I understand the Rose Bowl.
I know it's a big historic
deal.
Move the championship there.
Yeah.
You want a neutral site? The championship could be your neutral site game. Move the championship there. I think the championship used to be at the Rose Bowl every year.
Yeah, obviously there was the whatever year that was when USC played Texas. That was at the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, or make it a semifinal game. Like, even if you want to make those neutral site games, but the quarterfinals need to be home games. And I mean, we could go on and on about the changes that need to be made. But I do think at the end of the day, if you mirror it like the NFL, in terms of contracts, in terms of the scheduling, you'll be a lot more successful than just kind of you can't change it to a 12-team playoff and then keep the exact same schedule you had before just with a playoff thrown on top of it, because that's not working.
And obviously, it's unfortunately going to have to be a trial and error process because you're seeing they're making all these changes, and now we're seeing what definitely doesn't work. So you got to kind of trial run it and see what works, see what doesn't work.
Yep.
It's going to take a couple more years for them to, work out all the kinks and tweak it to where it's just right. Obviously, they are actively looking for solutions, which is something I guess you can appreciate. They're trying to make changes every offseason to make it better. So they are recognizing that there are issues that they've got to go out and fix. But you got to do some sort of contract deal to where there's more regulation on keeping players because the loyalty thing is not there at all. And then obviously fix the scheduling, I think, is the other big one.
A lot of major changes need to come, and I think it starts with putting people in charge of it and separating itself from the NCAA.
Mm-hmm. Here's to end our show on Under Review. Brought to you a quote from the Muhammad Ali, and he said, "Don't count the days, make the days count."
Ain't that the truth?
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for tuning in this week, and we will see you next week with our March Madness episode here on Under Review.